Hello and welcome to Not One Right Way, the podcast. It's me, Melissa Manuel, she, her, back another week, another one with my bestie.
Another one. Hello, Marve Walking Yaga, they them theirs.
How are you, Marve?
I'm doing pretty darn good. Just had a great meal. Feeling at home in my body, you know?
That's so nice.
I'm saying that because I took a lot of drugs and I'm no longer in pain.
Nice. I should do that. I had to go to the doctor today to get some blood work, and the lady mauled my arms, and now they really hurt. I got giant bruises because they couldn't find the vein many times, and when they could, the blood wouldn't flow. She's like,
No.
the tap ain't working, we gotta try again. It was just really painful.
I relate to that so hard. I remember one time somebody was blaming me. They're just like, why isn't your blood flowing? And I was just like, girl, I have issues. I don't know what to tell you. Can't find my veins, can't find the blood. You're making this a me problem when it's not.
Not. Yeah. She was a real champ about it, though. She took it as a sport, which is why I think I have so many bruises. She's like, I'm the best in the office. When people have problem with the vein, they call me. So she was really persistent, and she was very proud of herself when she finally found it. She's like, I did it. Only took 4 tries. And I was like, okay.
I had somebody come in with the same level of confidence, and then they ended up crying because they had to put it in the back of my
Oh, that's the worst in your hand.
The back of my hand.
That's the defeat.
They're just like, I'm so sorry. I'm usually so good at this. I've been doing this for 15 years. And I'm just like, I'm sorry.
You broke this person?
They were crying.
That's amazing. I must ask, what are you watching before we introduce our guest?
I walked into the living room and my dad was watching Friday Night Lights, which I have not seen since I was a child. And I forgot how much I love explosions in the sky. So I was really vibing with the music, watching it for the first time in a while and being like, oh, these are 16-year-olds. They've got the weight of the world on their shoulder, and it's also just football.
Wow. I honestly didn't know anything about Friday Night Lights, and now I'm more confused about what it could be about.
I will let you stew over that, and then I will probably tell you what it's about.
Thank you.
But what have you been watching?
So, as you may remember, I finished all of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the best show ever, or one of, and still on that Star Wars kick. So now I'm watching Star Wars Rebels, and it's got Chopper, the little droid Chopper. He's very violent, and I love him. So,
do you feel like it's a reflection of how you want to be in the world, how you want to present yourself?
I don't think I should be full Chopper, but sometimes I need the confidence that Chopper has to just push someone, electrocute them, and then run away giggling, because that's a good amount of confidence.
Yeah. I want that for you as well.
Thank you. Well, we've held off long enough. We have an amazing guest today. She's one of my really good friends. Quyen-Vi Nguyen is the associate producer for MP Animation at Sledgehammer Games. Previously, the one and only producer for all of VFX and Lighting for 2 years. Say hello to Quyen-Vi.
Hello to the world, to the viewers. Hello. You guys have such difficult veins. I've never had such problems when getting my blood drawn.
Maybe you're just hydrated.
Maybe. Maybe that would be the case. I always go in and then they're like, ooh, you got some juicy veins. And then they poke me. And then I'm just like, okay.
Wow, opposite problems.
Truly.
Couldn't be me.
Okay, we're going to start you off with the first question. Quyen-Vi, I don't know if Melissa's told you this. Recently graduated. I got my master's in social work.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm used to digging in deep with people right off the bat. Our first question for you is, what do you think, What cookie do you think represents you the best?
Ooh.
That's a good question.
Um, I'm gonna say my favorite cookie represents me the best, which is oatmeal raisin, because it's not well loved, but it's just like I think it's a sleeper cookie, you know? Like, it's not the classic go-to. It's like kind of a wallflower cookie, not everybody's favorite pick, but I think it's solid and delicious.
As an extremely biased person, you are so well loved.
Thank you. I love my oatmeal raisin lovers, you know?
I do too. I like an oatmeal raisin a lot.
I think it does have a place in the pantheon of like go-to cookies.
I think it's definitely established.
Real ones appreciate an oatmeal raisin, you know?
Yeah. If you know, you know.
That's a really good psychoanalysis of yourself through the cookie.
I love that question. That was great. I used to ask like the weird icebreaker questions at work to kind of get conversations going.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite things I learned about you when we first started working together was your icebreaker questions. And I still think about the one you asked, would you rather be a snake with arms or a penguin who could fly? Because
Yeah.
it's always so controversial when I ask it to people now.
Oh, I'm glad that you still ask that.
I always say I would be a snake with arms or legs because
Yeah.
it's way cooler than a penguin that can fly. But everyone disagrees.
Yeah, everybody disagrees. They're just like snakes don't have arms for a reason.
I think if you can maintain the ability of a snake to just like completely constrict and like kill something in that way while having arms and like joints and stuff,
Yeah.
I'm down for it. I think that's metal as fuck.
I think when people thought about it, they were thinking about like movement and the snake and slithering. And they're like, as a snake, I'm much faster slithering versus um with arms. Now I have to like deal with like that and it slows me down. They really embody like themselves as the snake, and they're like, nah.
Maybe it's like retractable arms, you know?
That'd be cool. That's a game changer. I'm sure you get people like that. You're just like, you know.
I'm gagging. I do not like the idea of the arms retracting. That's bad. That's bad.
Where did they go?
Don't worry about it.
Don't
Snake
worry about
magic.
it. That's between you and God and me.
Now, I would love for you to share with us a little bit about you, where you grew up, where you went to school. How did you become the most amazing producer that you are?
Oh my gosh, thank you. Okay, wait, side note, I got like a compliment from my animation lead today about how great of a producer I am, and I was
Oh,
touched. I was touched. I was like, dang.
that's so sweet.
And it meant a lot to me because I recently joined that team like 2 months ago, so I think it really means a lot. But to talk about who I am, where I come from, my origin story, I was born in Oakland, California, from the Bay Area. I went to your typical public schools, very drab experience. Uh, born Asian American with the Asian American upbringing of like, you have to go to college, you have to have a good education and know what you want to do and execute and be successful and make lots of money, which put a lot of pressure on me as like a child. Like, I don't think I really got much pressure from my parents because as soon as they told me that and I got wind of that, I was like my biggest burden as a kid. I was like in middle school signing up for like college preparedness classes, being like, okay, how am I going to get to college? What am I going to do for my career? And I never imagined video games as a like career path for me at that point. I think I was an avid player of Pokemon, loved that, begged my family to give me a Nintendo DS so I could play Pokemon, and that was my life. But I think at that point, I wanted to do something in science because I was like good at STEM and I had good grades. But it just like, it was so much school. I got to college and I was in my like science classes and I wasn't really enjoying them as much because they're way harder. It was like so much more competition. I went to UCSD, by the way, UC San Diego. And
Oh, go Tritons.
Tritons, yeah, they're super nerdy over there.
There.
It's like yeah, super nerdy, super STEM. I was just like, I'm lost. I feel dumb. I don't get it. And I was in a chem lab class. I was like doing my experiment and I was always high stress in that class because I always had to like take a shuttle from like off campus site to campus because I had classes off campus and I was always late to the chemistry lab class and so I had less time and I'm just a slow person. I need my time and I never got my experiments done on time. And one day I was like trying to heat up a solution and it wasn't heating up. And so my TA was like, "Oh, just bump up the temperature. You're fine. Like, you're going to run out of time." So I did. Water, when it heats up, uneven bumps where like the temp, like, I guess just the surface is, I can't even explain it correctly, but the surface is a different temperature than the inside and it's unstable and it explodes. And my solution exploded on me. And I was
Oh,
like, I can't take it. I'm out of STEM. STEM is not made for me. I'm switching.
yeah. Oh.
And I went in as, or I switched as a cognitive science major or with a specialization in design because that was like the closest art thing that I could do that wasn't fully art because I didn't want to do like a fine art major at UCSD. It just didn't fit like the college expertise. I kind of wanted to do like more like human-centered design. How do I become familiar with the design process and human thinking and designing for care and attention to human behavior? So that's the degree I ended up with. Totally unrelated to game design still. How I actually landed in the game industry was not at all related to my formal education. I actually, on a whim, had a extracurricular. I joined this youth program called Gameheads, and it's a youth program that trains youth of color, youth of low income, how to design video games, to like train youth to like break into the industry. Um, and I actually joined like I think my junior year of high school or my senior year of high school. And we always like to say in the program that it's kind of like the mafia, where like once you're in, you're never leaving. Like you're just a part of the family, and the program really sticks with you until you find a job in the industry. Because our age range is like 15 to 25. And so I think what's really benefited me as a student at Gameheads is that they're with you long term. Like I was there for about 5 or 6 years developing games until I got an industry job. Funny enough, actually, to correct my statement, I was developing games as a student for about 5 to 6 years. And then once COVID hit and I had graduated college, I was like, I don't have any jobs lined up. I don't have anything. And I talked to our executive director, Damon Packwood, and I was like, I'm stressed, Damon. I don't know what to do. And he's like, why don't I just hire you? Like, you could just come work for us. And I was like, dope. You just saved my life. Amazing.
Right.
And so I was about a program coordinator for a year, and I helped run the program. So during the school year, we do like Sunday classes from 12 to 6, where we have industry professionals teach the kids. And we teach everybody, like, in their first year, all of the disciplines of game design. So, like, design, programming, art, project management, narrative design. So they learn, like, all of that from industry professionals first. And then during the summer, we have our, like, game jam or our summer accelerated program. And the students form groups of, like, 5 or 6, maybe less. They come up with a game idea, and for the next 10 weeks, they're just working on the game project that they have for our showcase at the end of the summer, where they like show off a vertical slice of their game vision. And then at the end of the year, they polish it up, and then we release it on our itch.io page for the world to play.
Wow.
So I think that Gameheads has been a big window into like me thinking of games as a career, and then an actual gateway to me securing a job, because they've been a great help, like connecting me to like the network of mentors that we have, and just like the experience I was able to build as like a student, like high school student, college student, making games. And like I feel like that's really what made me prepared for my job at Sledgehammer. So yeah, that's kind of how I landed at Sledge, and I've been here ever since.
What was that transition like for you from being like a participant in the program to being a program coordinator?
It was the same in the sense that when I joined, I was only like their second year of, like, I was their second year cohort, like, of recruitment. I was like the third girl in the program. And so very early on, the program was very hands-on, of like, whatever you want this program to be, we will shape it to fit your needs.
Mhm.
And so it was always very like empowering the students to like take charge and shift the program. So in that sense, like I was used to like how the program ran, and like how it needed support. But I think what was the most new for me was I was like an older student, or like just an older person in this program, in a position of authority, where like people came to me for like college advice, for like video game advice, and like people looked up to me, I guess, for answers. And I was just like, wow, I never could imagine this much responsibility. Um, but I think it was really nice. Like, I really cherish my time while working for the program, because it really does feel like a family, and it does feel like we're here to be supportive and to be there for our students.
Yeah.
So just being able to support people in that way, because I think that like the demographic of students that we support deal with like a lot of problems in their daily lives that can like deter them from college, or deter them from even like participating in the program. Like sometimes life is just too much, and it's like I've been in situations where I've actually been able to feel like I've done something to help them. So I think that that's always like a cherishable moment.
Yeah. I really resonate with a lot of what you're saying. I remember being 20 years old and being suddenly like the adult in the room. And like you're kind of describing like this role model, this coach and mentor, but also feeling like I just transitioned into this role and suddenly people are depending on me. And it can go really well when you are able to help, when you're able to be that supportive person in their life. And it's also like, holy shit, I'm actually a baby. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, I was like, I'm not much older than you guys. Sometimes I felt like way over my head. Like sometimes we dealt with like just like clashes of like cultural differences even.
Yeah.
And it was just like, how do you support that? How do you make sure that everyone feels seen and is understanding of each other? Like that it's not just like a personal thing, but maybe just a cultural difference standpoint. So yeah, I was just like, dang, I am just 20, like, or I guess, yeah, I was like early 20s at the time. I was just like being a goofball and then being thrown into hard situations sometimes. I was just like, my soft skills were really being tested.
Yes. I wanted to go back to what you said about like your parents pushing you to be the like driven kid, because that also reminded me of the moment. I think I was like in 5th grade, and my dad was like, I can't afford to send you to college, so figure it out. And that was the switch in my head of like, okay, put it into full gear. So what you said about like applying yourself extra hard and going to college prep classes, that reminded me of everything I did just to get to school, because there is very little guidance when you're a first generation student. So it's nice that for you, even though what you went to school wasn't exactly what you wanted to do, and you're the first person on the podcast who's probably good at math, but you found something that was able to guide you, and that was Gameheads.
Yeah.
I want to say I'm not good at math. I have a love hate. I refuse to do math nowadays. Like even if it's like simple addition or like what's the tip total of this receipt? I'm like calculator or you do it. I'm traumatized from math. Absolutely. I refuse to do it. So much that I forgot your question.
There is a question. Just acknowledging your journey and thanking you.
Oh, the parent trauma of like you figure it out. Yeah. It definitely wasn't all in my head, but I think I like pressured myself in my head more. But I think like to my younger self, I would say like you can put your foot off the gas pedal a little bit. You could enjoy life a little bit more, definitely.
Definitely.
I feel like a lot of people put so much effort into college, as did I. When I got to college, I was burnt out. I was tired of school. I did not want to continue. And yeah, like once I got to college, I was just like really lost and had a really hard like lack of motivation of like what am I going to do with my life? Like I have to have it all figured out now, and I had spent my entire life on this one goal of getting to college. I forgot that there's a life outside of college, like after college even.
Yeah.
So,
That's real.
yeah,
Sparkle fingers snaps to that. Like
snaps.
There's an after college.
I remember this feeling of just like emptiness. Like I had gotten accepted into college. I had a full ride for 4 years. Nobody was going to take it away. I literally could not do anything that would ruin my chances of going to college, but I still have a life that I have forgotten to live because all of my energy was put into this one thing. And it's like suddenly my life stopped, but everything kept going. And then college started and everything kept going. And it's like, dang, nobody prepares for that.
Yeah, and I feel like how I was raised as a kid, like my mom did everything for me, like cooked, cleaned, everything. I just showed up, did my homework, went to school, did extracurriculars. Like I was the kid doing community service, presidents of like multiple clubs and multiple different sports teams in high school. And then yeah, when I got to college, I was tired. I did none of that. I was uber depressed. Didn't like lost my way. Didn't have any motivation. And I think even to this day, like I still struggle with like juggling more than one thing. Like it's either like work or life, and it's hard to find that balance.
Yeah, definitely. This podcast is the first thing I've ever done that's not work or life. It's
I'm so proud of you.
purely for
doing this.
fun.
This is so cool.
I had the sophomore slump for real in college, and so sad and so depressed. I don't think I recognized it in the moment, but I was definitely very sad. And maybe the red flag should have been when I was in basic filmmaking, I showed my film and then I cried because I hated it so much. And I was like questioning my whole life in that moment.
I had serious mental health issues. Really, like I remember just crying every night of high school because I was taking multiple AP classes and staying up until like 1 or 2 a.m. doing homework, taking a little nap, and then waking up to like do more homework. And I did it because that's what everybody else was doing that like wanted that was like like the smart Asians that like were high achieving. I was just like, I gotta be like them because they're gonna get me to college. Like I gotta perform like them. And I think after the fact, like my family was like, I don't know why you're doing all that. Like we thought you were trying to go to Yale or something, so we just let you be. And I was just like, why did no one tell me I didn't have to do all that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so unhealthy. The good thing about college and finding that low was that I was just like, I'm in desperate need of therapy. Like I was just like, this is my chance to do therapy. And like I remember talking to the therapist for the first time, and she was like, "You've been depressed since like you could remember, like in middle school, high school. Like that's not normal, Quyen-Vi." And I'm like, "It's not. Like these feelings, I shouldn't have been feeling them."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Therapy's great. Everyone, if you need a therapist, highly recommend
Yes.
seeking. We could talk about college forever, it feels like, because it's such a
It's
crazy time. I feel like almost everyone we've talked to has like this long finding yourself journey moment of being in college. But I do want to try and bring some focus to your more current achievements too. How was your transition from Gameheads to the big company like Sledgehammer that makes a very well-known product?
It was definitely a big culture change. I think that Gameheads is very like mom and pop shop, very like family. It's very casual. And we would joke around and have fun and poke fun, and it would be really just like it didn't feel like work or, being in a AAA studio right off the bat, I was overwhelmed by the sheer amount of like people that it takes to bring a game to the finish line. Like I remember like I had to get an answer for a simple question. I had to go through like 20 people until I found the person that I like actually needed to talk to. I think that sums up my experiences is that it really just takes like 20 villages and
It does.
you got to know the right one. But I think what still stays true to why I'm a associate producer and why I want to be in production is that like I'm here for the people, for the devs, and I want to protect their work-life balance and make sure that their vision of the game is what we create.
Definitely. That's always been my thing too of like, I want to be a producer because I want to help the artists tell their stories and make sure they're not dying.
Yeah. If we go back to my time at Gameheads, I made like 5 or 6 games in various different roles. Like I was a level designer, a game designer, artist, an animator, art director, narrative designer, and I made some games that I'm really proud of and some games that I would hate to mention because I don't want them to be perceived. But like it never really felt like I fit my skill set. Like I always had imposter syndrome of like, this doesn't really feel right for me. Like I could do it, but I couldn't do it at a level where someone could pay me for it. But then I had spent all of these years working on game ideas that other people had. But I had been brewing on an idea that I would want it to do for a game for a while. And my final year making a game, I'm going to be the person that has the main game idea and recruits the people. And that was actually when I was introduced to the idea of becoming a producer or project manager. Because, again, my executive director, Damon, he was like, yeah, why don't you try this out? I think this would actually suit you really well. And it was kind of just like creative director, but also like project manager. Try it out, see what happens. And I really fell in love with, I guess, the control I had. Just like I love planning. I gotta be honest. Like I am a little bit of a control freak. Like I do need to be in the reins a little bit. I felt like in the past I was like a backseat leader behind the curtains, and I always shun away from like actually taking the credit of like the work that I put in a leadership role. But then being a producer fully put me in the spotlight to be that leader, and I wanted to be that person that could like, here, let's gather people in the group. Let's figure out what we want to do as a team. Let's plan it out. If we find out that we can't do it, let's see what we need to trim off, and let's make our realities happen. Because I think prior, all my games kind of underdelivered because we were just young people making a game in 10 weeks. Like we didn't have any like semblance of time, and we were really just working around the clock to just bring this thing to like fruition, and that's not what I wanted this time.
Yeah. I think that's a testament to like your whole journey at Gameheads proves that you were always kind of meant to be a producer because people came to you for help and advice and solace, which is often what producers end up being. And I know you're a people producer, I like to think. And I always admired that about you because you were in one of the hardest departments, one of the most downstream, being VFX and lighting comes at the very end. And it also is part where it all looks really pretty. So people are so impatient to get that like full VFX'd out character or environment, whatever it may be. It always seemed like they were happy to be there because they know that you were there to support them and guide them and cheer them up and maintain a sense of like community and that team vibe because you were such a good producer to them. And even though it was remote, I could tell that like your team really looked up to you, relied on you for that morale.
That's so heartwarming. Thank you. Such kind words.
Aww.
That's so
Just a love
sweet.
fest.
Yeah, super love fest. I miss working with you. I think that it was super great. I think you had a great impact on your team. So I'm sad that we're not working together anymore.
Yeah, that is the saddest part about not being there is we don't get to work together anymore. It's okay, we're still friends. Now I watch
Still
The Circle.
Yeah. Now we hang out and it's just fun times, no work to bog us down.
That's true. All the perks, none of the work. Can you talk about what VFX and lighting is in the game world for people that may not know?
Oh my gosh. So much. So much. I'll start with lighting. At least I just know it in a Call of Duty context. Like I think lighting is really important in our campaign, our single player campaign, and our multiplayer maps at establishing a mood and like even guiding the player to like the objectives and where they're supposed to be. It's not just you flip a switch and a light is there and the whole map is pretty and lit and stuff. It's really just like, I think it's one of those unsung heroes of like, you never notice that a thing is well done if it's well done, only if it's badly done and it's jarring to the eye. So it's like, how do you make this visually come to life, set the atmosphere and mood in a map? And yeah, just a lot of attention and detail goes into it. Like for the lighting department, when we go into making an MP map, for instance, like they're choosing the time of day it is. So like, where is the sun in the sky? What skies are we choosing? Like we do sky captures that we then render into the game, and we work with our art director to set them, like to pick what kind of mood we want to go for. If it's like a dark, grim, haunted map, like, how do you make a nighttime map but still have it visible enough for the players to know where they are, to see things so that it doesn't break the gameplay? It's always like that juggle of like, how do I make this visually pretty and create an atmosphere and ambiance that doesn't break gameplay? I think they do an amazing job, and I'm always so proud of their work. For VFX is a lot. VFX is a lot.
VFX makes things so pretty, though.
Yeah, I think it's just like, again, with lighting, it's like, how do you breathe life into a game and make it feel realistic? It's like where the muzzle flashes on the guns. We think about like how big they are, like what the distortion on them is, so that it doesn't like, it's realistic enough, but it doesn't like, again, harm gameplay. It doesn't like obstruct the player's visions or sightlines or anything. It's like, how do we like make this river have flowing water in it? Where can we like not fake wind, but like how do we make it look like there's movement in a map so that it's just not still? And my favorite part of VFX really has been like our live season, where we get to do tricked out versions of our weapons, and we do blueprints, and we do all this fancy VFX. I'll say this because it like popped up in my mind immediately. Like, we did a Cheech and Chong partnership, and so we had like weed muzzle flashes and then the death effects, which is like when you kill a person, what's that effect that pops up? And it was like a person-sized blunt, and like it was like Cheech and Chong in the blunt, and I got to name the name of the death effects in the store. I called it like double doobie dismemberment or something. And
Nice.
I was like, that's my stamp in the game. That's my claim to fame.
Wow. The partnership was fun. I remember that one.
Yeah.
I remember being like, who's Cheech and Chong? And I was so baby for that because everyone was like, God
It was
loves
before
them.
our time. Yeah. I perpetually make people feel old at the studio. They're just like, remember this thing that we did in our childhood? And I was just like, our childhood.
Your childhood.
Real.
I
I was
remember
just like, oh, go ahead.
I told Dean one time, oh, I just watched this old classic film, Lord of the Rings, and he cried.
Weren't we alive when it came out?
Yeah, probably, but it feels old, you know?
No.
If he was like, it's not a classic.
That's so funny. It is a classic though. It's just not like a dusty classic, you know?
Yeah, it's not in the Criterion collection.
Yet.
I did recently watch Lord of the Rings though. Like, I hadn't until like recently, and it's a lot.
Same. It takes a long time, and sometimes you get sleepy and fall asleep.
100%. Yeah.
That's what happened to me. I
How many
forgot what we were
times?
talking about.
How many times Melissa, did you fall asleep watching Lord of the Rings?
Okay, the first movie where like I almost said Dumbledore. Please don't come for me.
Dumbledore.
No, I'm
I
editing
love
it out.
when Dumbledore was in Lord of the Rings. Please tell Dean that.
No. Whatever, the old wizard man, Gandalf. He like shows up to the little hobbit village and is like, I brought fireworks, and then I'm asleep. I did that like 5 times before I could watch the whole movie for the first
Wasn't that like really early on?
That's like
Yeah.
5 minutes in.
It's so boring. I'm so sleepy. But I finally made it through. I've watched them all now. I acknowledge what they stand for.
A masterpiece. Yeah, it's it it does drag a little bit. There's a lot of content to go through.
Definitely. Those extended editions. Whew.
But yeah, we did it. We watched it.
Thank you for sharing so much about your work life experience. I hope it's helpful for people. Maybe if you're interested in working in VFX or lighting or being in production, or you should check out Gameheads because clearly it's an amazing program that helps amazing people like Quyen-Vi. I want to end on a fun note. What show, movie, game inspired you the most, or is like one of the reasons that you're still into this entertainment world?
Man, Um, ooh, that's tough. I want to say Pokemon is where it started because that was like my obsession video game, and it still is. And it's literally what I said in the interview at Gameheads to like that where I was just like, I'm not a gamer, but I play Pokemon. And Damon was like, shut up, you're a gamer.
Yeah. You like the Pokemans. You're a gamer.
Yeah. And I feel like well, I guess not recently, but just evolving from that and like playing more like indie games and seeing how creative games could be and how you can really craft a narrative that is so compelling to the player and really draw them in for an experience. I really appreciate the ability to do that. I also think that my time at Gameheads was really valuable because like it was my form of self-expression. Like I made video games that were really deep and core to my identity and kind of what I wanted to say. Like my first game was how it was like a metaphor for like mental illness and like all it was a multiplayer hot seat game where you like played as four or you had four friends that played a character and each character represented health like a mental health illness thing that I like struggled with. Like it was depression, anxiety, insecurity. Turning that into a game mechanic, like that was crazy to me. I was just like, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
So the first game I made, and then the last game I made at Gameheads, which was it was called Two American, and it was a dialogue game about my experience as a first generation American not being able to communicate with my immigrant mom and just like how hard it was for me to have a language barrier and a cultural barrier growing up. So I found people that resonated with the idea. We made this game and I was just like, wow, you can really like share your experience and pull somebody into your world for like a minute. So it's I think that games are really special in like crafting an experience and I'm here for it. Like I think that's what really inspired me to like do more and really like stick to games.
Yeah. And those can be found at the Gameheads
Oh my
itch.io.
gosh, don't go. Don't
Everyone go play
go.
your games.
I might link it. Might link it.
You
It's
might
like
like it.
5 years old at this point, I think. Oh my gosh, maybe it's buggy. Maybe it like won't play.
Will not fix. WNF.
Yeah, will not fix WNF.
I really like that because I think Pokemon for me too was one of those video games that got me into video games. Like I had a Leapfrog, if anyone remembers that. It was basically what a Switch looks like now, but a Leapfrog brand.
Imagine
And
kids that don't know Leapfrog. That's crazy.
and then I got a Game Boy that my sister handed down, and then I got her a DS. And it was like Pokemon was always just very fun because of the story. Like it guided you along, like, gotta go fight Team Galactic now. And I'm like, okay. And I would never win against Cynthia, but that's okay too. And Pokemon meant a lot to me. I remember saving up all my birthday money, and when my uncle came to visit, he gave me like $20 cash, and I just saved that up so I could buy Pokemon Black. And that's like the first game I ever bought for myself. And I was so happy and proud. I was like, I got my own Pokemon game. It's not like a hand me down. I got the new one. And it has a very special place in my heart. I love Pokemon.
I'm trying to look for the Gameheads itch.io.
No.
We're gonna find it. We're gonna hunt it down.
I'll send you the link. I'll be my own demise. Should I?
Yeah.
There's actually like so many games on here now because I joined Gameheads like maybe in their second or third year of like running as a program, and now we're like 10 years in and we've expanded. Well, since COVID, we've actually like had our like program be remote. Now it's hybrid, but we've like expanded to different states. Like we're in Atlanta and Hawaii now, which is amazing to think about.
That's sick. Go Gameheads. Do you have any advice for the people listening? Anything you'd like to share about, I don't know, anyone whose aspiration is to be in games as a producer, artist, etc.?
I'm always a proponent of like doing things to like actually test things out and really experience as much as you can. So like if you can do this in school, that's great. But there is the saying that like 60% of what you learn that's like useful is like outside of the classroom. So I would say like get your friends, just like make your own game. Even if for like if you join a game jam, I think they're always running. Like some of them are 2 weeks, some of them are longer. If you could whittle away, or if it's like that's too intimidating, what me and my friends used to do is like on a card game night, we would play this game, really like it, and be like, okay, how can we like change it up, add our spin on it? How could we like remix this game? And so I think that like there's always little things that you could do to kind of just like experiment. And I think YouTube is a great source of information now of like just what goes into like rudimentary game design even, and like how can you just build the basics. And then another great lesson that I've learned and have at least tried to learn is the saying of fail faster. Like don't be scared of making a mistake. Like run at it full force and just don't be afraid, because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
That's very similar to Samuel Beckett's fail better.
Don't bring up Samuel Beckett right now. Do not.
It's just such a stuck with me because when I was in college, I was in theater, and my professor Andrew Manley was obsessed with Samuel Beckett. And his favorite thing that Samuel Beckett wrote was ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. I don't know, that just sticks with me. I think as annoying as Samuel Beckett could be, I thought that was very beautiful. I know we didn't get into like the ugly side of game dev, but
Yeah. It was all happy times here. All about dreams.
all about dreams. That's another conversation entirely about how hard it can be.
Yeah.
We will let you go. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Thank you for your story.
Yeah. You got anything to plug other than your games?
Oh my gosh. I'd say if you're within the age of like 15 to 25, please check out Gameheads. And if you're interested in becoming a game developer, try them out, because I think the program really works. Like we've been around for 10 years, and there are many students that have like quote unquote graduated from the program that are in the industry now. Like we have people at ILM, Niantic, Sony, Crystal Dynamics, Sledgehammer. So yeah, I didn't say in as part of my advice that like connections are a big thing, but connections are a big thing. So like whatever you can do to get connected and to get your foot in the door for like people that are in the industry, because I think the industry is super hard to break into, and connections will always make things easier.
Agreed. That's why we're doing this podcast in a way too, to help people learn and see and meet people indirectly. Connections. There's not one right way to get in.
Yeah, fade to black.
Real.
Bye, Quyen-Vi.
Thank you for having me.
That was our conversation with Quyen-Vi. Isn't she just an absolute ray of sunshine and joy and K-pop magic?
Yeah.
I only say that
Yeah.
because she loves K-pop.
Yeah. Agreed on all points. Very fruitful discussion.
Dang, we should have asked her what her favorite K-pop song is right now, because that would have really thrown her.
Oh.
I'll follow up. Quyen-Vi gave me like a seminar one time when she was visiting about how the K-pop music industry works, and it was so informative. I know it's like her Roman Empire, and I walked away so much more knowledgeable and kind of afraid of the K-pop music industry.
Yeah. This shit's brutal.
It is. Indentured servitude out there. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Check out the games that Quyen-Vi made on the itch.io and all the other Gamehead games too, because I'm sure they're all amazing in their own way. Made by very cool people, young people.
Yeah, and make sure to donate to support an amazing program that is really bringing skills, resources, support to these young people in, I guess it's beyond Oakland now, but in the Oakland area as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about bringing DEI into the game industry after 2020, and then it's kind of all petered out. So it's really nice to see places like Gameheads actually doing the community-based work to bring that into focus. Makes me happy. Anyway, I love you, Marve.
I love you too, Melissa.
It felt right to say. It's been a fun conversation.
Yeah. And remember, there's not one right way to create your first video game.
There's not one right way to decide that you're not a STEM person anymore.
There's not one right way to network, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's a big one. And there's not one right way to come up with fun icebreakers for your team.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.